And as the seed starts off, we will already see the spoilers that this will not be a sword seed. We will, however, have 20 rupees. And I'm also joined by Ileana. How are you doing today?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's always great to be commentating with you again, and we do see a very early map check by eLmaGus, seeing a regular pendant over on Eastern and 2 crystals in our other Light World dungeons.
Give me 2 seconds.
I will give you all the time you want. And as we head down to the uncle, we do see that this is going to be a bow start. And the bow is, of course, a very nice weapon to have throughout the early escape. And also joined by the Ice Rod. This is a truly interesting start to major items already. SageLord also getting a nice little arrow pickup, always nice to have. And when you do see this early arrow or this early bow start, something to bear in mind is the potential for a very fast Eastern play. Now this time Eastern is a pendant, but I could just indicate that you can just go there, get those 3 items, and never have to worry about that location again.
Yeah, definitely so. The early Eastern play is definitely on the cards with our bow in tow.
And for people who are wondering how many Windstar players have, this is a 3-0 race.
And these guys are looking to stay undefeated going into the week 5 of the tournament.
And eLmaGus, of course, is one of the most experienced randomizer players in this entire tournament. SageLord, on the other hand, is relatively new with about half a year of experience.
Looks like that half a year has led him well. Anyone at 3-0 at this stage of the tournament must be top caliber.
It is not easy to go undefeated so far as our players have done. We will see who manages to keep this going into the next week.
Let me see if we've picked up our small key already for the escape sequence. So there's going to be a lot of loot available in the basement. See if either of our runners opt to farm any extra guards to try and get a bomb drop.
The bomb drop is extremely important to get, and eLmaGus is using a very interesting Ice Rod strategy here. I've not seen this one before, but I love it.
I'm going for those swag strats.
There's the map.
Guard never saw what hit him.
The map in Zelda's chest means that there will be 3 items locked behind that bomb in the sewers.
And there'll also be 2 other items that we are almost guaranteed to get. Chest in the sewer and then the chest in the sanctuary.
And sadly, no hookshot, no boots, and no mirror to help them with this escape, so they have to walk all the way back.
At this stage of the run, however, both players are aware that neither player has access to those items, so it's no time loss, it's just we'll get to watch the escape sequence in its entirety.
And walking back from escape is very fun to watch, very exciting.
And some more opportunities to kill some guards and get a bomb, hopefully. You can see eLmaGus going for that, and SageLord also.
Yes, getting a little bit of magic for SageLord, but no bombs. The rupee count is not particularly safe either.
There's a few blue rupees available in and around Kakariko Village, so hopefully they'll be able to pick up those. Assuming we get bombs. If we have to buy bombs, we might be in a little bit of trouble.
Indeed, you will need 100 rupees to check the bottle merchant, and then you can spend 50 rupees to get 10 bombs. On the other hand, mentioning that early Eastern play, if you decide to go for that and sequence break, not using the lamp, you could go into the big rupee room there.
Very true, there's a number of different locations we could go to get some rupees. See SageLord killing a few extra snakes, trying to get some vault bombs and bailing.
Yes, the piece of art in that chest, no bombs yet for either of our players.
Hopefully there'll be a few more kills before we get to the end of escape.
They do have plenty of arrows and plenty of rats. SageLord spending a lot of time here really wants that bomb.
If both players fail to get bombs, it won't be the end of the world. They'll both have to come back, but the issue can occur whenever one player gets bombs and the other does not.
These rats are not being very nice with their drop rates today.
That they aren't.
Basically just hearts and a single rupee. It's not looking good.
At this rate, both players will end up coming back for the two. Never mind.
That 8 bomb drop with the final rat for SageLord, saving grace.
That'll save him a little bit of time. eLmaGus will have to come back here at some stage with the bombs.
50 rupees a bomb capacity upgrade and 20 rupees, so no progression. That's good for eLmaGus, but still some nice rupees to have heading into Kakariko.
Definitely so. He's got those 70 rupees he just picked up from right at the back. And also, eLmaGus will almost certainly need to buy some bombs here, so he's sort of net 120 rupees ahead, SageLord is at the minute.
eLmaGus is also very low on the rupee count, so chances are he has to make some sort of gamble here on getting rupees or bombs at Thieves' Basement.
The blue cane in Lost Woods. It's a handy item for safety purposes, not that either of these runners will need it. Also is part of the logic requirement for the Spike Cave.
And the crab only with a single rupee as well, not being very nice. And we do see both our players opting to not check Lumberjack. I know that this is something eLmaGus does basically every single seat. Oh, look at that, there's a glove upgrade.
Yeah, the checking of Lumberjack is sort of fallen by the wayside a little. A lot of runners like to wait until they have the boots at the very least, because the boots aren't required to get the item, even if you do kill Aghanim. So if the item is required, you will need to get the boots at some stage, and it's a lot faster to check those when you're checking bonk rocks.
And I've seen a lot of people being poor heading into Kakariko, but eLmaGus getting that one single bomb there will allow him to check one additional item location. But he's not very rich at this point.
You'll need to pick up at least 3 more bombs to be able to check the typical locations we'd be checking early in the game. However, there's lots of chests available and there's lots of blue rupees in here. You could opt to spend some time to farm them.
Gonna get our first sword here. 10 arrows is a solid pickup, and the flippers obviously for nice progression item to get, and there's the 20 rupees, and we'll get 30 more here in the back.
That sword definitely be useful for combat purposes. There's our Titan's Mitts, that's 2/3 of our Dark World access, and a 100% required item. That'll be very useful for our runners.
That's a super early sub 10 minute Titan's Mitts.
I wonder if we'll have another one of those seeds where we end up walking all the way around the world looking for the hammer. Titan's Mitts are handy for getting in the Dark World, but they only give you 1 access point, unfortunately.
Well, thankfully they do have the flipper, so they will have that complete control. Also, a vanilla bottle.
A bottle's very useful. Let's just check the sick kid immediately.
Bottle right next to Sick Kid, and Sick Kid's gonna grant us today with some money. eLmaGus is relatively happy finding that.
Yeah, cash to cash. He still needs to go and buy bombs, unfortunately. Hopefully he'll find another 40 rupees to check the...
And SageLord just got the Moon Pearl, and that's Kakariko Dark World access, sub 10 minutes.
So it's a good recipe for some divergence early in the route, with us having Dark World access so unbelievably fast.
And the
there's our
cave
boots.
I mean, I've said this before, but Hype Cave has migrated to the well.
That was quite the hype well. Those boots.
And the cane!
What even is this seed?
That hammer has to be in a really weird location, I dare say.
Yeah, it's definitely looking that way. That's a lot of items very, very fast. We'll see where our runners opt to take all of these items. I'm not 100% sure where I'd even go at this stage, to be honest.
Personally, I hate seeing Dark World access from Kakariko, because just precisely, where do you go? You have basically the entire world open to you.
And these runners are both sitting on 3 hearts. It's not exactly safe to be in the Dark World at this stage.
That is interesting that they haven't been able to find any heart containers yet. eLmaGus is making the Dark World play.
And opting to go straight into the portal. He will have access to a few chests in Thieves Town, some chests in Village of Outcasts, and Skullwoods.
Skullwoods being the green pendant, the blue is Palace of Darkness, and I do think the other 5-6 red crystal was in Swamp, together with the Tower of Hera.
The interesting pendant layouts. That Cane of Samaria will definitely come in useful for whenever we're forced into both Turtle Rock and Misery Mire. And that early Ice Rod's definitely useful in a required Turtle Rock seed.
And SageLord finds the 300 Sora money here at the race game, and he's going to go and pick that up.
And SageLord's opting to do a slightly more conventional route and ignore the fact that he has Dark World access for the time being.
And eLmaGus is already up to 2 bottles.
The first bottle's handy for checking the sick cage, but the second bottle's not of massive use to us. Still handy for safeties, buying some blue potions or whatever.
I always do find it interesting watching how eLmaGus routes seeds, because he is extremely good at being able to read a seed and navigating through the overworld.
Here we see him heading straight into Thieves Town, deciding that the hammer will hopefully not be required in here for the final item.
And SageLord is opting to do the standard, normal route that you tend to do in the early game. No diversion here.
And there's a lot of value in the mini Moldorm Cave, 2 items here at the dam. Skipping out on those 7 locations it's a big deal. Like, even if he's going to head into Dark World relatively soon, he might find some. There's the hook shot. eLmaGus' play, if Thieves Town play, is definitely paying off.
Like I said, eLmaGus reads seeds very well, and that hook shot is going to be extremely useful for him.
That's 2 of our 4 items in Thieves Town. Let's see if we manage to get away with not having the hammer here.
And with that, you can sequence break to Dark Death Mountain at 13 minutes.
There's a lot of chests up there, but I'm not sure if sequence breaking is the greatest idea at this stage. We have a lot of stuff open. Like, we have access to a lot of items that don't require sequence break, so I'm not sure if we'll see players do that.
And then SageLord here is sadly not going to find anything in Mini Moldorm Cave. eLmaGus got the God Pixel in the Hellway.
Makes that room a lot faster. It's very impressive to see. So the enemies moved the correct way as well. It is a 1 pixel dash up there, and you can still just get hit by an enemy if it moves the wrong way. It's a little awkward to do.
And there's eLmaGus' 8th bomb drop that he was waiting for earlier. Thing is still just deciding to go into Thieves Town at 2.5 hearts green mail. Everything 2-shots you except for those spikes.
eLmaGus is renowned for his good execution. Hopefully he'll be able to clear out Thieves Town relatively easily. SageLord.
Yeah, SageLord here with the Sora.
Yeah, he's going to take that newly found wealth of rupees he has and check out what the scam merchant up in the waterfall's doing. There's a few item locations up here you can check as well, for a total of 4. That map in the cell will indicate that the small key is actually locked in the big chest, so the hammer is not required in Thieves Town.
And that's a great feeling to have if you're in eLmaGus' shoes. SageLord here, you're going to find some bombs and 20 rupees at the Waterfall of Wishing.
Not having too much luck with a slightly more standard route.
3 heart blind green mail. Let's see how well eLmaGus can do this fight. First two phases are down. I'm moving into the third, and he is manipulating blind very well. There's the 7th, there's the 8th, and there's the 9th and final hit. Flawless fight.
Perfect blind fight. There's his last item in Thieves Town and his first crystal at 15 minutes 19 seconds. It's very, very fast, especially for a Thieves Town crystal.
And SageLord just got a piece of heart from Sora, and the Sora ledge was a big heart. He's opting to skip that despite his low heart count.
He got a bunch of cash from the Waterfall of Wishing, but unfortunately won't have a lot to do with that for a while anyway. He's opting to head over to the Eastern Palace area.
And with a sequence break, he can get all 6 items here. eLmaGus is continuing this Dark World route and heading over to the shovel game.
He'll probably end up down in Hype Cave relatively soon. We'll see where he goes from there.
Could be a potential Frog World Tour for him. SageLord's gonna find a piece of heart, air capacity upgrade, and 20 rupees, while eLmaGus keeps on digging.
Decided not to go in the Eastern Palace immediately. Maybe
it could be because of the Dark World access and also the fact that it's a pendant.
Yeah, it seems fair. Diving into a pendant Eastern dungeon that you can't actually logically clear maybe isn't something he wants to do whenever he has so many locations available.
Kingston with a bomb capacity upgrade and a super long digging game for 300 more rupees.
eLmaGus is opting to take the Frog for World Tour, as you mentioned before. Good prediction.
And no mirror, so no K45 unless old Stumpy decides to be very nice.
And SageLord checking the bonk rocks as well.
There's 10 arrows from the Stumpy, and bonk rocks today with a big heart. That's a pretty nice find.
At this stage of the game, it is very handy. That's his 5th heart. Might be feeling a little more safe heading into Dark World. He's going to make his Lumberjack Cave check, potentially.
Now, after Hype Cave, you sometimes tend to just save and quit, but I wouldn't be surprised if eLmaGus is just gonna keep going with the flippers and check Pyramid into Catfish, because that's the kind of routing he decides to do. Also, vanilla heart piece over at Lumberjack.
Is Aghanim firmly off the table at this stage?
Or the Hype Cave here with our second shield upgrade. We found the 10 bombs and a medallion.
I realised that that's not necessarily Aghanim off the table. There's a fringe case that we might need to kill Aghanim later. If the hammer is on the periphery, that would be quite funny.
I'm trying to think what the other 5-6 crystal was.
I think the other 5-6 crystal was Swamp Palace, come to think about it, so that can't happen.
That is true, it is the other 5-6 location.
Never mind. Aghanim's dead.
And everyone rejoices.
eLmaGus is going to deliver the blacksmith. Let's see what we get from here. See if SageLord heads into Thieves trying to get his hook shot after he clears out the village broadcast.
And eLmaGus can combine this with a library check and also the Twins house at the race game, because he didn't check those places.
Yeah, he could even head straight down to check the South Shore areas that he hasn't checked yet.
A nice big heart, up to 5 hearts now.
I'm sure eLmaGus is pleased to see those hearts. Regardless to his great execution, it's still nice to have a little bit of a buffer for errors or for damage boosting even to save some time.
Absolutely, and I did miss it when SageLord visited library, but there was just a piece of heart there.
eLmaGus opting to not pick up the 300 rupees there, and SageLord is opting to not check Thieves Town immediately.
eLmaGus back at the Sanctuary. Is he going back into the Dark World? Is he going to do the 3 chests at Escape? That seems to be the case.
You might be checking King's Tomb and possibly Bonk Rocks as well. Might be doing the 3 checks that SageLord did up here a moment ago.
This routing just works out very well despite not getting those early bombs. SageLord now with the extremely long digging game.
lots and lots of money from this.
It's gonna finish it off with 300 more, so our players are pretty much set on the rupee count.
eLmaGus is going to get the peace of mind that he requires from checking the back of a skip. You don't want to leave these chests for too long, even if you have a lot of item locations available. These could have been something very important that you have to assume your opponent's got.
Absolutely, and sometimes you just forget about those chests because you often just get the bombs when you're doing escape and then you forget them when you're done.
I've been informed that eLmaGus has actually checked the bonk rocks already whenever he was dropping off the blacksmith.
That's eLmaGus routing. It's incredible to watch, and he's gonna do the lumberjack check now and then sequence break up to Death Mountain, I guess.
It's either that or take a dip into Skullwoods. Neither area is like completable in logic, but we'll see where he heads off to. There's still a few items that we will require. Still looking for our fire rod, our hammer, and potentially medallions.
SageLord here with his hype cave is gonna get his 10 bombs, Quake medallion, and go up to tier 2 shield.
eLmaGus is going to make the sequence break up to Death Mountain. There's a lot of items available here, but none of them are in the logic. Be interesting to see if we maybe find the lamp up here, then we'll know that the flute is out there somewhere.
Would also be interesting if he finds the mirror or the hammer, because those are the items that are locking away Tower of Hera at this point from him.
Even if we get into that neck of the woods, we can't complete it yet due to our lack of fire source, so I'm not sure if eLmaGus will be too concerned about that at the minute.
And as someone in chat pointed out, a pretty interesting item in this seed is the bow, because bow is required for 2 pendant onions, but you still need the bow to get through Ganon's tower. And there's the mirror.
There's our mirror. That'll give us access to Tower of Hera if we are that way inclined.
I guess that's what you call commentator's blessing.
Yeah, you're getting good at that.
Well, the Tower of Hera access is here. And I guess he's then going to find the book in Tower of Hera and check Ether Tablet.
Opting to take the save and quit. Maybe he wants to check the East Death Mountain before he heads to Hera.
He still has to be a bit careful with his heart count and the raining cabbages that exist here. So we see SageLord is making the dip into Skull Woods, which is the green pendant. Can't beat it, but can at least check some item locations.
Yeah, Skullwoods has a tendency to have an item or two available. It's the fact that you can get all of the chest in it as soon as you access Dark World most of the time leads it to a good place to have a little dip into, especially with us not needing to come back to kill the boss. Hopefully.
You never really want to kill Mothula unless you absolutely have to.
eLmaGus is going to check the East Death Mountain chests here.
An early big key for SageLord, but no item in the first 3 chests. Super Bunny Cave here with some nice hearts. Do continue.
Yeah, that mirror is going to make eLmaGus's routing here in East Death Mountain extremely efficient. Be able to head up in the Dark World and then mirror over the Light World, check Spiral on the way down, and then check Paradox Cave after that. I see Bombos is the required medallion for Turtle Rock, I believe that was.
I also saw Bombos. eLmaGus here with his fast mirror just to check the island. Let's see if he continues. Nope, just want to check the island. Oh, the hammer is in Swamp! Oh, I mean Skullwoods, my bad. It's in Skullwoods.
SageLord finds that hammer in Skullwoods. That's an extremely important item. It's definitely 100% required, and it's somewhere that eLmaGus at this stage has opted to not check by the looks of things. We'll see if that hammer will give SageLord a bit of a lead. undoubtedly put him into Thieves' Town next. That might have been the reason he was opting not to go in there. He'll then find his hookshot in there. So it's a very good find for SageLord.
Indeed, as people in Shadow point out, the Swamp Woods is now the name. And the lamp in Hookshot Cave, so they need the flute to get up to Death Mountain. Half magic is on Bumper Cave.
That lamp in Death Mountain means that, as you mentioned, flute. There's very few locations that flute could realistically be. It could be in the light section of Palace of Darkness, or it could be in one of the few overworld, dark world locations we haven't checked, or it could be in Eastern. And we will need to find that lamp at some stage to finish Mire. So it's definitely something eLmaGus will be keeping in the back of his head now that he knows that his dark world or his Death Mountain access was via the flute.
SageLord opts to spend some time to pick up that half magic. He's gonna keep the cape above for a long time and take a death. I wonder if that was intentional or not.
I doubt he would have died there with the cape literally equipped. That was undoubtedly intentional.
And eLmaGus has found a Master Sword over here on East Death Mountain in Paradox Cave.
Yeah, definitely very handy. That is 100% required to beat Ganon. It also speeds up some overworld movement. Lets us check a few items if we get a book. Speeds up killing things.
eLmaGus has checked everything there on the east side, so we found out Bombo's medallion for Turtle Rock, we got a sword upgrade, we got the lamp, and of course the mirror at Spectral Rock now for the Tower of Hera play. Or, wait, oh, he's taking out the hookshot just for spin speed.
It looks like he's going to head up to Tower of Hera with that lamp in tow. He does have his fire source necessary to complete Tower of Hera if the basement is required. So that solved the issue that he was going to have first time through here. SageLord is making that dip into Thieves' Town with that newly acquired hammer, and that'll give him his hookshot and his first crystal.
So the thing that we're asking ourselves right now are two questions. Where is the flute, and when will eLmaGus pick up the hammer in Skullwoods?
And both those questions are very important questions, but the hammer does lock a number of dungeons, and that's our fire rod. That's a required item. Always handy to see.
Okay, so the fire rod is also locked behind flute then.
That also might give eLmaGus a few more reasons to go into Skullwoods now that he could potentially beat the dungeon if he wanted, but it is hard for the green pendant. SageLord is making short work of Thieves' Town, as eLmaGus showed us earlier.
At this point, we are looking for Bombos, flute, and possibly ether if it's needed for Mire.
Ether could be anywhere, as could Bombos. However, the flute, we do have some information about the flute in that it can't be locked. It can't be on Mothwood, and it can't be. There's a potential that it can't be an Ice Palace either, depending exactly where Bombos is. Because both the fire rod and the lamp were locked behind the flute. Flute should have been our Death Mountain access, but eLmaGus Sequence Brook used the relatively straightforward dark room.
You did also see the second item in Tower of Hera being the red boomerang, so eLmaGus has head straight to Moldorm to finish off the annoying little snake thing.
Didn't even need either of those fire sources he needs. Doesn't need to take his trip into the basement.
It's going to be his second crystal pickup in sub 30 minutes. SageLord will soon get his first here from Thieves' Town.
See where eLmaGus heads now that Tower of Hera is cleared out.
He's got a lot of choices left still, and he is heading into the Dark World. Or no, he hasn't got
he hasn't got the hammer, so he can't check that or use that Dark World portal. Unfortunately, he's heading to the dam and the mini Moldorm cave. These are a few locations that typically we would have checked much earlier, but eLmaGus didn't because he opted to go straight into the Dark World.
Yeah, I just realized that. I got so confused because 30 minutes in and you still haven't checked the pond. This routing by eLmaGus is really interesting.
And just keeping things efficient, keeping our tracker on his toes.
But at this point, we do have both our players just going through what the other players already visited. And the sequence break has given eLmaGus some really nice hearts that will make him much safer going about this seed.
Let's see, SageLord has Blind's getting a little away from him, but that cape is going to guarantee the fight is completed.
And the magic is no problem with that half magic they got over at Bumper Cave, and that's going to be his first crystal.
And with that hook shot in tow, we might see him sequence break up Death Mountain as well. She'll even the playing field. Well, it'll actually give SageLord a bit of a lead as he's gotten the hammer from Skullwoods already.
It's very difficult to truly compare our two runners at this point because of the wildly different seeds. That hammer is the vital difference at this point.
Yes, I think especially this early section of the seed will be dictated a lot by when eLmaGus will head into Skullwoods. Hopefully that is sooner rather than later. I see SageLord doing the hammer pegs, a location that eLmaGus couldn't check here the first time he was here.
Yes, some rupees.
Max is going to go for a swim and check. Sees the mirror shield on the Hylian Island. I doubt he'll be picking up that. I'm going to head off to Hobo.
Players don't tend to put a lot of priority on getting those shield upgrades, so I'm also pretty sure he's going to skip that.
Players of this caliber are more than capable of doing the laser bridge skip, but that's realistically the only thing that the mirror shield is overly useful for. That was Bombos, wasn't
It apparently I looked away, but apparently it was Bombos, and the tracker agrees.
That was our Bombos medallion. That is Turtle Rock. Well, we have the Bombos medallion for Turtle Rock. eLmaGus doesn't have his hammer yet to actually get into Turtle Rock, and SageLord doesn't have the Bombos medallion yet. But that is Turtle Rock's medallion location secured. It also gives us access to. We had access to Ice Password. Ignore me.
It's a lot of things to keep track of considering this big sequence break. eLmaGus is not going to go to Skullwoods just yet. SageLord now with the Aegena's cave check.
Looks like eLmaGus is going to check the little mirror spot above the graveyard. This is like a notoriously awkward spot to check. eLmaGus has been burned a few times by this particular location in the past. He's deciding to check it immediately.
And he wants that half magic, and Aegena's cave had another sword upgrade.
I'll definitely be handy. We'll probably see eLmaGus check that at some stage whenever he's in the desert area. He has no real incentive to go to desert quite yet.
And here's that potential sequence break that you mentioned earlier for SageLord.
And this Death Mountain play will definitely pay off for him. He'll pick up his Fire Rod and Mirror. Almost certainly check or complete Tar of Hera while he's up here.
But he does not have the Bombos to enter Turtle Rock. So neither player could go up there and complete it on their first sequence break.
Let's see what the cave above the graveyard is holding for us today.
We do know that it cannot be the flute. A main upgrade is pretty nice.
Yeah, it'll do. Adds a bit more safety to eLmaGus's riding. It's going to head off to the east side of Dark World. maybe have a catfish check and potentially head into Palace of Darkness after checking the pyramid.
I mean, catfish is always very difficult to route in. Could also get to see our pyramid check after this.
And if I recall correctly, eLmaGus hasn't did the Zora area, so we could just see him mirror over to the Zora area and then save and quit in front of the big man.
He saved and quit after he checked Hobo.
Yeah, I think he did. I'm pretty sure he saved and quit from Hobo.
In that case, this is yet another great routing choice from eLmaGus.
Just some bombs from the catfish.
And this is basically the most effective way you can route in catfish. You have the mirror and then head over to the Zora region, because otherwise just walking an extremely long distance for one item.
Yeah, it definitely is a handy set of routing. The mirror showing off that it is probably the best routing item in the game. SageLord making quick work of his trip through Death Mountain. He'll be picking up his fire rod and he's picked up his mirror already. So his fire rod's kicking about relatively soon.
And he's going up to Tempered Sword. eLmaGus, is he running back for the heart or running back to go back into the Dark World? Straight back into the Dark World it is.
Undoubtedly, Minio's going to check the pyramid at the very least. He could very well dip into pod as well, which will be a bit of a time save that SageLord will be able to make. Strictly speaking, he could finish it at the minute. It would involve sequence breaking via some dark rooms, but it's not something that's beyond his ability, I would suspect.
He does have the mirror to make a continuous pod into Eastern check, but sadly not having that hammer means he can't finish Palace of Darkness. On the other hand, it's 2 pendants, so he's just in there to look for items.
We'll see what he opts to do after the pyramid. He could very well just be checking the pyramid. However, this is his only way to get around to this section of Dark World at the minute because of his lack of hammer. So being in the area, he might want to check similar stuff while he's here to see if the whole walk from Village of Outcasts is back around here.
Indeed, sadly not checking Skull Woods yet means no hammer, 50 rupees on the pyramid.
It looks like he is going to head over to the Palace of Darkness / Eastern area. He hasn't checked Sahasrahla either, so that's another 3 locations he can check while he's here.
SageLord is continuing his trip up here on Death Mountain. There's a lot of things to check.
And he'll undoubtedly be finishing this off with a play into Tower of Hera. With his hammer in tow, he could even check Spike Cave after Tower of Hera.
That is true, and that's an item location that eLmaGus couldn't check.
It's a relatively low percent item location, but the fact that he'll be able to get it out of the way on his first trip up here is definitely of use.
Maybe low percent, but when or if the seed comes down to just a few awkward locations spread all over the world, being able to get them out of the way like Spike Cave in this situation is going to help a lot.
Yeah, definitely so. Without half magic and both Cane of Berna and Magic Cape, he'll have no issues doing that Spike Cave.
And it's going to be our first Palace of Darkness check here, and it's going to be eLmaGus who makes the trip.
Strictly speaking, the hammer only locks one location, the Helmsword King himself. So he will be able to check a lot of items, and as a pendant dungeon, we don't actually need to kill Helmsword King, hopefully. Like, the pedestal at the minute is Ether or Bust, so I'm assuming Ether is required from Misery Mar.
That is true. Also, interesting big heart in the first chest, so it's bow locked, but the bow was the Uncle escape item, so it wasn't really bow locked anyway.
Sort of, kind of bow locked. it would have been annoying if, like, if you came in here without the mirror, rooting it would be really awkward. But luckily we have the mirror, so it'll be nice and straightforward.
Yeah, pod is really difficult to route without that mirror.
SageLord picking up his red meringue. Like, getting to avoid both of the basement and the big chest is very useful for fast tower power.
It's a very fast Tower of Hera, being able to check so few item locations.
That tempered sword will make short work of Moldorm.
And Moldorm playing very nice with SageLord.
He picks up his burrito and his second crystal.
There's a lot of items back here for eLmaGus, but we do know that the flute cannot be in any of these darkroom sections.
There's very little that can actually really be here for eLmaGus. We're only really looking for the flute at this stage. There's the book, gives us an extra couple of locations to check.
Ether tablet, Bumble's tablet, maybe that will persuade him to head over to Skullwoods, get the hammer. I mean, the pedestal check is really low priority at this point since it can literally only be Ether if Mire is required.
Yeah, I think these items he's picking up are going to end up sending him further away from Skullwoods, unfortunately. Let's see what the Spike Cave holds for us today. Just 20 rupees.
Now that book also opens up desert because the flute hasn't been found yet. On the other hand, the flute can also not be inside of desert.
Yes, it was the book being in a dark room definitely sort of it means that eLmaGus still has very few locations that he can really check for the flute. At this stage of the game, I feel that the flute is probably in Eastern Palace, or in actually, well, we don't really have any. There's a couple locations that could still be in Palace Darkness, I suppose.
I really do like that guess on Eastern Palace. It seems the most logical right now.
Between the two players, we've checked a lot of overworld locations. I see SageLord heading off to get his Bombos medallion now. That's another location it could be. The flute could be in Ice Palace as well. That Bombos avoids the logical issue with the fire rod.
That is true. And eLmaGus, 2 keys leaving. Is there an item on the Helmasaur King?
I didn't count those very well. Flute, 100% cannot be in Helmasaur Kingdom, fortunately, so that shouldn't bother us too much.
And instead eLmaGus here into Eastern. 20 rupees in the first chest. And we'll see where SageLord is going to go now. Maybe this is his time to go Pyramid into Pod Eastern.
It seems that way. He will end up spending a bit extra time in Palace of Darkness killing off Helmasaur, if he does hold an item at the end.
And the big difference right now is indeed that hammer that eLmaGus does not have, and it is in Skullwoods.
It's a location that you can only put off for so long. It's only a matter of time before he dips into Skullwoods and picks it up. And it wasn't particularly deep in the dungeon either.
I'm still a bit surprised he didn't opt to check that earlier when he did up and did the bumper cave into Graveyard Ledge. That is the routing decisions he's made this seed, and he's just wanted to stay out of that dungeon. And there's the other boomerang in Eastern Palace.
See, SageLord's gonna pop into the witch's hut and pick up some potions while he's here.
And eLmaGus is in a 50-50 situation right now where his third item is.
However, it could potentially be the hammer in his mind. However, it cannot be the flute. Because we're still in the logical conundrum of Lamp and Death Mountain. This is a very interesting piece of information that both players have at the minute. It makes thinking about where that flute could be very interesting.
Well, the flute, it must be an ice palace, or is there another item location we're forgetting?
I think it almost certainly has to be an ice palace. I think between both players they've checked everything. It can't be in any of the mirror spots, and it can't be up Death Mountain. Not that there's only one location we haven't checked in Death Mountain, but it can't be on Ether Tablet. Can't be on Turtle Rock. Can't be in any of these dark rooms. So it's almost certainly an ice palace.
And eLmaGus with the map and the compass is going through with Armos for the final item.
Still a possibility that you get a required ether at some stage. SageLord opted to save and quit from the catfish area.
As stated earlier, very awkward location to route in because it's so far away, and he's already checked Sora beforehand.
He's going to head back into Dark World and head into Palace of Darkness and Eastern Palace.
Now, if Ether is required, that would be the best item eLmaGus can find here. Otherwise, I'm presuming it's going to be silver arrows.
Well, given that SageLord looks like he's going to make a similar line of play, it's not going to cost him too much time. It'll cost SageLord the same amount of time, if not more time, if he checks how much working.
That is true, and eLmaGus does get an arrow, but it's not the silver arrow.
And see where he heads off to next. Must have been a couple of locations he ended up skipping out on. He mirrored and just presumably decided to head into Eastern before going to the final couple of chests in here.
Harmless Hellway? He skipped that one, or?
He must have done. It would explain his 2 keys that he has.
Yeah, that must be the case. One key there and the other one to Helmasaur. Oh, see what's in here. Oh, not something good.
Let's see where eLmaGus plans to head next.
Looking at this save and quit, it leads me to believe that he may be making the ice play or possibly checking a genus. He did get the book, so the desert seems like a good area and it's a crystal.
Yeah, as eLmaGus is still looking for the hammer, he has no logical reason to think that the hammer cannot be in Desert Palace. Looks like that's where he's heading. It is a completable crystal dungeon as well. He's going to pick up his tempered sword in Gideon's Cave.
So with hammer at Skull Woods, and almost certainly the flute must be in Ice Palace. That could be really interesting to see what time our players will be able to get that item, if they decide to opt into Ice Palace and find the flute there.
The flute, at this stage, does have to be an Ice Palace, I believe, or some sort of breadcrumb to the flute. There is a moderately high chance that the flute is hammer-locked in Ice Palace as well, which, given that eLmaGus is undoubtedly aware of what chests are hammer-locked in Ice Palace, he'll probably go into Skullwoods before he goes into Ice Palace. Hopefully.
And the reason we're looking for this flute is because the lamp was up on Death Mountain. So there's a lot of items on Death Mountain, like the lamp, like the mirror, like a sword upgrade, that is locked behind the flute.
And both the book and the fire rod were also lamp locked.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in this sea that was locked behind the flute.
See, eLmaGus treading on new territory, popping into Desert Palace.
2 items here and a crystal, so he has to go here regardless. Gets the small key.
SageLord making short work of Palace of Darkness. He's going to end up doing a full clear of the dungeon, killing the Helmstor King, using that hammer to great effect. It's fun to see the wacky routing people take whenever they're doing Eastern Palace and Palace of Darkness at the same time. Like, nip out of one dungeon and then take a break from it and do the other dungeon.
eLmaGus is still looking for both items here in Desert. Oh, there's the first. It's a nice little big heart on that torch. Not interested.
The final item is on Lamolus.
Which he had to go and kill anyway, so it's pretty convenient.
Yeah, at this stage, it's not a particularly slow dungeon to clear. Would have been faster if we had the flute, but we don't.
You have to work with the things that's given you.
Very much so.
The thing that is very interesting right now is if eLmaGus is gonna dip into swamp or ice first, and that could be a critical moment for him.
There are 3 of the locations in Ice Palace are hammer-locked, and he 100% can't finish the dungeon unless Hammer's in Ice Palace. So it'll be interesting to see which line he takes. He will need to complete Ice Palace at some stage, and as I'm sure we're all aware, Go Mode Ice Palace is significantly faster than Slow Mode Ice Palace, so he might end up popping into Skullwoods hoping to find both the flute and the hammer. Or at least one or the other. Strictly speaking, he doesn't really care which he gets first, and it's completely within the realm of reason that the flute could be in Skullwoods, logically. We know it's not.
And here's eLmaGus and Molus fight, not getting the best of patterns. SageLord is done with Eastern Pod. Did he opt on skipping both bosses?
I think he did. To the best of my knowledge, there was an item on Armos Knights and Helmstor, so he might just be opting to gamble that there's nothing necessary in either of those.
Well, Armos only had a single arrow, and that's not particularly useful. Meanwhile, eLmaGus here picking up his 3rd crystal, and SageLord making this play into ice.
Let's see if our predictions are correct and the flute is an Ice Palace.
Now, this Sanctuary save and quit point, to me, from eLmaGus, is a tell that he may be heading into Skullwoods now.
I don't think there's any other locations in this neck of the woods that they could particularly check.
The first chest here in ice with a small key, and that opens up a lot of different routing choices.
That means we can go right in the room. The room downstairs with the big spiky ball in it, which does actually save a fair amount of time and give us access to a fair amount of chests very fast.
The most lucrative area in ice being 3 items, and eLmaGus is soon going to get his hammer.
Should be very pleased to see that. They'll probably stay in the dungeon to get the 2nd item as well. There's no real reason that flute couldn't be in here other than we know it's not.
The hammer is deeper inside, or I don't remember if SageLord acquired both items earlier.
If I recall correctly, I think the hammer's in this chest, or the chest just on the right here.
No, the hammer is in the, I like to call it the Cane of Samaria room.
Ah, right.
But I don't remember what was in the big chest.
The chance SageLord didn't check it, but it almost certainly it was nothing, and we just forgot about it. Or maybe the item could be a Mothkilla as well, which eLmaGus can kill, unlike SageLord when he was here.
So SageLord only found 1 item here, but since it is fire rod blocked, we do know that the flute cannot be back there.
And glories of the logic in this game. It's always fun to think about. And SageLord's getting his nice lucrative section of Ice Palace, as you so put it. Getting the vanilla big key chest here. See what he finds.
SageLord with just the compass, and eLmaGus with his hammer. He is leaving Skullwoods, not spending any more time here.
It's a good call on his part. There is still the possibility that he requires ether. However, he knows that the main item that he's looking for, the flute, cannot be on Mothula or in the chest in Mothula's little area.
Heading straight to the hammer pegs, and a bottle there for SageLord. Now, the first bottle was in a vanilla location. The second bottle was in one of the chests in Village of Outcasts. I wonder, did he check that or not? Okay, the tracker has updated, so I presume so. Regardless, it's always nice to find yourself some bottles.
And SageLord, when he was in the Catfish area, opted to buy some potions as well. Or at the very least, I definitely saw him empty his bottles of flies.
And we're running out of item locations here in Ice.
This is one item location that I don't think either player's checked. And it's the purple chest. That could very well be our flute that we're after.
I can't remember if SageLord... No, wait, I remember SageLord checking this.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I remember it. A certain dash didn't quite work out the way he wanted, so I remember him checking it earlier. And eLmaGus may be running over into Ice now. There's the flute in the big chest in Ice Palace.
It sort of, kind of, almost puts SageLord in go mode. We don't know for certain that we can get into Misery Mire, but there's a 2/3 chance that we can.
You imagine that's going to be the first place he's going to check when he's finished with Cold Stare.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll go and wake up his flute, and then that having his flute will also speed up his Desert Palace clear as well, which eLmaGus did from the front door. He'll be able to do from the side door.
This is still an extremely close race we have here. That additional crystal lead from eLmaGus, who is now entering Ice Palace. SageLord opting to use a blue potion on Cold Stare. Just a little bit too early on that spin. Does not manage to get Cold Stare into the corner, but very nice usage with the Fire Rod.
A Fire Rod and that half magic coming into good use. Definitely better to drink that potion than have an unfortunate death in Cold Stare. It's quite a walk back.
And Cold Stare with the fetch, dropping the shovel, which could be the ether if that is required.
Well, undoubtedly, SageLord won't be keeping us in suspense for long. Save him quit and immediately head over to Kakariko to wake up his flute.
Oh, those skeletons cause so much lag for eLmaGus.
Had a minor issue getting the quickest of quick kills there, but still got a pretty quick kill.
It's a pretty finicky setup. No bomb jump from eLmaGus. A very clear tell that he's going for this full clear.
Yeah, definitely. So with that flute still being on the loose and him being pretty sure it's in here, he'll definitely be going for a full clear.
And now we're very anxious to see where SageLord is going to flute.
I don't think there's a lot of options there. Finding out whether or not you're in go mode is definitely the most important thing you can do right now.
It's a 2/3 chance that he is in go mode, and that is ether! We're not in go mode, and he's not happy!
So one little rage swipe. So the question is, did that person in chat that mentioned ether being in here get it right? I didn't catch your name, but I saw the message. No.
Well, it's not a Mire Shed, and that means that the pedestal is still alive.
So a few other locations that it could be. We could have ether in. Ether could be in Turtle Rock. That would be pretty annoying. And there's also all of the mirror locations are now live again. The two tablets and the checkerboard cave.
Let's be honest, Ether can be literally anywhere except for Mire.
With all of those skipped pendant bosses, I kind of want it to be a pedestal. I haven't seen a pedestal seed yet. It'll be awesome.
Oh dear, SageLord has to go back into Eastern and Palace of Darkness and kill both of those bosses. That's gonna take some time. eLmaGus already has the pendant from Eastern.
We'll see what the plan is after both these players finish off these dungeons that the other has already did. So eLmaGus recently picked up his flute.
At this point, we are merely speculating. But if we're going to talk about a potential pedestal check, Skullwoods is the green pendant. There is still one item left there. Being able to pick up the one item there, the green pendant item, and check the pedestal seems like a pretty good choice. On the other hand, you may just want to finish off the crystals first.
Yeah, the arguments between checking not Turtle Rock and checking Turtle Rock really at this stage. I think a lot of it will depend on how the runners feel, if they're feeling behind or ahead, or if they want to make the gamble. We can complete Turtle Rock, so that's definitely an option.
And eLmaGus showing how you do coast there, gets it into the corner, 2 spins, and then 1 final slash and manages to pick up the kill. Fantastic fight for him.
Another thing that we weren't thinking about there for a second, there's the whole of Swamp Palace as well available, which Swamp Palace kind of has 8 items because of Pyramid Fairy. That's a pretty lucrative spot to go.
It is lucrative, but Swamp is also a dungeon you really want to do in Go mode.
Very much so. Let's see where the players opt to go. eLmaGus is racing off to Kakariko Village to find out that he's not in Go mode. eLmaGus made short work of Cold Stare. It's very, very fast fight. SageLord doing his Lamola's fight. Getting a little trolled by a short hop.
And eLmaGus almost certainly taking the flute here to Mire to check. He's gonna see Ether. And it will be interesting to see where he's gonna go after this Mire Shed and likely Checkerboard Cave check.
I think we'll see SageLord head to Checkerboard as well. But after that, it's going to be interesting to see where the guys decide to head. There's a lot of choices available. We have Swamp Palace, Turtle Rock, assorted dependent dungeons, lots and lots of stuff to check.
Now here in the Mire Shed, eLmaGus managed to dash through those 2 weird things, and that is a 1-frame window upon entering that dungeon.
I always assumed that wasn't possible and just never ever went for it. So you can actually do that. Oh my god.
1 frame, I'm pretty certain it is 1 frame, and 3 bombs at Checkerboard.
Let's see if we have any divergence or if we'll be doing crystal dungeons. Both players are going straight to Turtle Rock.
This is an extremely close race, as you can see here. They have the same number of crystals. The only real difference is that eLmaGus has that Eastern Palace Green Pendant, but SageLord has still cleared everything else in that dungeon.
This is went from eLmaGus was feeling a bit behind to both players are literally in the same place, like doing exactly the same thing. This is very, very, very close.
Well, eLmaGus felt ahead at first with that early hookshot and getting all of those sweet items up on Death Mountain, but then SageLord gets the hammer and everything turns around, and now they're tied.
It'd be interesting to see what the players think. With this both heading up to Turtle Rock, I feel that this is the safe play of all of the plays that we have available. So I don't think either player are feeling particularly.
And Turtle Rock has a tendency to have some pretty good stuff in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of locations, 6 counting the Mimic Cave. It's a dungeon that we have to complete. It's unfortunate that we're going to do it before Ganon Star because saving the extra trip up Death Mountain is definitely very useful. However, the length of time it actually takes to complete Turtle Rock varies very little in Go mode compared to full clearing mode.
Absolutely, that is true, because you still pretty much have to check every item location to get all the small keys and that big key.
Just a small key in the first chest. We could have a Turtle Rock that you could complete without the fire rod. That would be interesting and irrelevant.
And another thing to bear in mind here is that at this point, this is a tempered sword silverless Ganon, but I'm pretty certain both our players are proficient at it.
In Master Sword would be a different story completely, but Tempered Sword is a relatively straightforward fight. And there's still a lot of locations that we could just find the silver arrows in. I think the main concern here is going to be finding Ether. If it's not in Turtle Rock, it'll be interesting to see what line of play the players take. I know neither player is particularly fussed on doing Swamp Palace in a full clear. So we'll see where they head.
eLmaGus finding the first item here being 20 rupees alongside the big key. Still has to check every item location here and the Mimic Cave.
And with the blue mail, this is a rather dangerous dungeon. SageLord actually, he doesn't have the blue mail, he just has the green mail, so it's even more dangerous for him. Hopefully another player will take an unfortunate death.
And that is some of those fringe item locations that the players didn't check. I'm pretty certain blue mail was at the graveyard ledge.
Yeah, I believe you're correct. And that will definitely hamper SageLord's ability to go extremely fast in here. I mean, he'll be taking a lot of damage. He also has a couple less hearts than eLmaGus does.
And this chain jump room coming up is always very dangerous. eLmaGus did it very smooth.
Very patient chain jump room there. Gets it done perfectly.
And eLmaGus finds the compass.
Still a lot of dungeon items in Turtle Rock. Typically, we'll end up waiting until the laser bridge and getting lots of items there. See if they're the one we need.
I would say we're gonna go back and talk about potential Go mode swamp and the likes. One good thing about Go mode in Turtle Rock is that you can always save that as your last dungeon and then head straight to Ganon's Tower, which saves all that time reclimbing.
Yeah, definitely. So I think at this stage, both players have opted to just sacrifice that bit of time to maybe get Ether in here instead of having to do a irrelevant dungeon.
And eLmaGus, now with this mirror or Mimic Cave check, my bad. And inside of that, he is going to find a big heart and the Sanctuary Heart.
Handy.
It's a nice refill for him, sitting at 14 hearts, feeling pretty safe.
And SageLord opting to whip out the fire rod to deal with those pokies.
We are also just missing some interesting fetch quest items here in both the mushroom and the powder, which could hold the ether behind it.
Very true. We also we picked up the shovel in Ice Palace, and we have not checked it yet. So it's another location that's on the fly.
That is true. Colstair did have that shovel.
And SageLord picking up his Sanctuary Heart.
Laser Bridge has had a tendency of having some pretty nice stuff.
We'll see if Ether is there today. here we go, the moment of truth.
Yes, 10 arrows in our first chest. Big bomb capacity upgrade, but that's not really needed at this point. And there's the Ethering Turtle Rock, of course, and there is the go mode for eLmaGus.
SageLord will be joining him in go mode very, very shortly. This will be an interesting race to the finish. So we get our go mode Misery Mara on Swamp Palace after this.
Now, eLmaGus will have a time lead, but anything can happen at this point.
Yeah, his climb up Death Mountain, his route through the Light World, and teleporting at Turtle Rock was a little faster than SageLord's route through Super Bunny Cave. So that's where most of this time save came from. eLmaGus is also able to play a bit more loosely, given his blue mail, as opposed to the green mail on SageLord's side. And eLmaGus showing off his Trinex quick kill. I have no idea how he does that. I've practiced that fight hundreds of times. I've never gotten a kill that fast.
It's just extremely impressive to watch.
Definitely so. Trinex didn't know what hit him.
As Trinex blows up, drops behind another big heart, and in this position, any big heart is actually better for SageLord since he has less.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a bit more of a buffer to his health pool. SageLord's making his way to Trinex now. eLmaGus will be heading off to Mire or Swamp. I'm not really sure what order doing those would be more efficient.
I think it may just come down to personal preference.
I very much doubt either player will be full clearing either dungeon. Like Mire, we might just have to full clear because Mire's a pain in the arse. Swamp, we can definitely skip the left side off.
I mean, if I do Swamp first and I find silver arrows in that for Vitreous, that's pretty nice.
Bird toss.
Instead of using the blue potion was down to 2 hearts.
His Trinex isn't going quite as smoothly as eLmaGus's thought it did. There's him on to phase 3, or the third head, should I say. Still gets him down in the first attempt at the very least. Completely respectable fight. He pick up his heart container and his 5th crystal.
Now we will see which dungeon he is opting to do first. eLmaGus is finding some small keys here in Mire.
I don't think either of us are particularly surprised about that. Mire's been known to troll quite hard with its big key location whenever you're trying to go mode it.
And Mr. Mire is also a dungeon where there are more small keys than needed, because there are some rooms in the dungeon that doesn't have any purpose.
Yes, the good old fish room, the room that you never have to go into, not even a randomizer. Some very, Mire is a very strange dungeon in that way. Like a lot of whenever you're clearing this dungeon from a no major glitches speedrun point of view, there's actually like half the rooms in the dungeon you don't go into. It's quite funny. He gets his big key in that chest on the left. It's a compass or map chest. I can't remember exactly which one, but that'll definitely send him off to Vitreous straight away.
And always a good feeling to not have to spend 15-20 seconds or so waiting for that cutscene.
Yeah, the vanilla big key chest in Mire is quite long to get to. You see eLmaGus heading off to Vitreous now, and SageLord's opting to do Swamp Palace first. I honestly don't think that which dungeon you do first here makes any difference at all. I'm pretty sure they'll both be mirroring and floating to the other one straight away.
Yeah, it's maybe a potential item like maybe silver arrows being very nice on Vitreous, but on the other hand you have pretty much all the equipment you need.
Yeah, I'm not sure if maybe if SageLord does check the few handy chests in Swamp Palace, he might find those silver arrows, which would speed up his victorious fight. But eLmaGus might be planning on skipping those already.
We will find out in due time. eLmaGus is soon gonna enter this vitreous fight. Still opting for bow and arrow straps on vitreous for phase 2, most likely, as he's using the spins here for phase 1, has more than enough hearts to just tank all the damage.
Makes for a very fast victorious fight. Those 15 hearts and blue mail are coming in useful now.
And 8 shots, and down goes the big eyeball.
And SageLord is stealing his key in Swamp Palace. He'll be heading straight to the back. The handy thing about Swamp Palace and Randomizer is you get to ignore the left side of it occasionally. It's always handy.
And also you don't have to find the big key, because the big key is only used for the big chest.
It's one of 2 dungeons that's the case, Skullwoods being the other. In the Randomizer in this current version, the big key can even be locked in the big chest, which is always amusing.
And there is one pretty straightforward item location here for SageLord. Let us see if he's gonna pick this up.
Oh, he's opting to skip that chest in the waterfall room.
That is pretty interesting, because even during Go mode, I often see players pick that one up.
I feel that both players are pretty confident in their silverless tempered sword Ganon, and given the way the seed played out, I have a feeling that both players feel a fair bit behind. With all of the items in the locations they were, we could have had Go mode a long time ago. There was the possibility of doing Turtle Rock on our first trip up Death Mountain, if the item locations had worked out perfectly for either player. So maybe they're just thinking that their opponent did get into Turtle Rock straight away, just skipping everything they can, shaving every second they can.
I think both players are feeling behind because of that late Ice Palace visit to find a flute, but also especially eLmaGus with the late hammer.
Yeah, strangely ended up not costing them too much time, because SageLord ended up dipping into the 2 pendant dungeons at Eastern and Todd around the same time as eLmaGus, so a lot of the stuff that SageLord did early, eLmaGus just did while SageLord was doing pendant dungeons. So both players have made very similar lines of play, just in a slightly different order. I see SageLord made very short work of Argus, and he's going to head off to Mire to get his 7th crystal.
And meanwhile, eLmaGus is already inside of Swamp.
See if eLmaGus opts to pick up any of those stray chest locations, or if he's just going to go moded as well. And see if we get a bird toss from SageLord.
There is one big gamble still remaining, and that is the potential left-right side in Ganon's tower.
I feel at this stage that both players are going to just play Ganon's tower sort of the typical way and go right first 2 chests, and then that was quite the bird throw, or bird toss. Right first 2 chests, and then if there's a small key, go full right. The way both players have been playing here, they aren't making a lot of large gambles. They're making a lot of like small gambles, just skipping all these little chests. But they seem to be playing pretty by the books as such.
eLmaGus wanting that one chest, but only 20 rupees. Now, in terms of the bottle pickups, eLmaGus has not purchased any bottles, so he has 2 empty bottles and a bee, I believe.
Well, why do we not have 3 bees? We should just get 3 bees instead. Bees are the only item we need. I doubt eLmaGus will be popping off to fill up those potions before he heads to Ganon's Tower. With his half magic, 15 hearts, he's probably pretty confident in his ability right now.
And he's tearing through Argus. And also about those bees, we haven't found the net.
No net, no bees.
And that is how you one cycle phase 2 Argus. 2 firewall shots and a spin. And eLmaGus is now heading towards Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, and as we make our climb up to Ganon's Tower, we like to play a little game here on Speed Gaming, where we name Ganon's Tower has 22 different item locations, and we like to play a game where we guess a number between 1 and 22, and see if anyone guesses the correct number. Did we start the little game?
I see people guessing in chat, but I don't think we've started it yet.
I should have did that before I started my spiel, shouldn't I? So get your guesses in chat, number between 1 and 22. Anyone who is a supporter in any of the Speed Gaming channels or has donated at least 250 bits will be entered it, or will have a chance to enter our leaderboards if you get it correct. So what are you thinking?
I'm always going to say 3, because I don't like Bob.
I'm going to go for a 12 today, I think. 12 number I'm feeling.
Well, 12. 1 plus 2 is 3.
True. We're making the same guess, sort of.
It's the same number, just in different ways.
eLmaGus was almost off the tower parallel.
SageLord just says, 1 final boss fight left before he heads up here.
He's a little more squishy for his victorious fight. He might opt to use the magic cape or Keen of Burna to speed up his victorious fight.
Just a short cutscene here and some possible deep breaths for eLmaGus before entering Ganon's Tower, the last obstacle. SageLord opting for the dash strat on Vitreous.
Made short work of victorious. Well, there we go.
Piece of heart and a bug catching net in our first 2 chests. So, well, there's the net for the bees, but forced left side.
Yeah, we shouldn't see any right divergence in Ganon's Tower. It's just going to come down to execution.
Number 3 is a small key, and that makes me happy.
Rip Bob.
So that leaves that potential time save for SageLord going into Ganon's Tower, because, I mean, you could mirror out of this room here. Oh, there's the Butter Sword.
It's a handy pickup. I'll make things even faster. Definitely don't need those silver arrows now.
That's 7 item locations. So you could potentially mirror out after you find a key or 2 over on left side and then go right. It's extremely rare to see that happen.
Is location number 8. It's 20 rupees.
And eLmaGus opting for the boomerang strat on these crystals. Use the boomerang, take out the hook shot, and drag yourself across.
Make short work of those rooms. See SageLord heading up Death Mountain via the Super Bunny Cave. They'll be getting into Ganon's Tower relatively soon. Chest number 9 is just a small key.
At least there won't be any problem with missing a potential small key going upstairs.
Item locations 10 through 13 in the random room here. So called because the only time you see it is in Randomizer.
Gonna start off with 20 rupees, 50 rupees, arrow capacity upgrade, and 20 more rupees.
Rip my guess.
We still have some item locations left to check. Possibly it's locked by the ice armors, maybe it is on right side, maybe it's in the tile room after all.
eLmaGus's Galantar entrance was like almost exactly 3 minutes ahead of SageLord's. See if he can make up those 3 minutes in the ascent.
3 minutes is a lot of time at this stage. 20 rupees above ice armors.
And with this forced left side play, there's no chance for a gamble on Galantar creating a bit of divergence. So you could opt to mirror out of the stopbox room. See if he does that.
I just find it very unlikely to be making any such play. There's always the possibility. Dice almost here. 3 items, of course. There's the big key and a piece of heart for a full refill.
Congratulations to Desak103, our first supporter that guessed 15. Vanilla big key. Not super unusual. I've seen it a few times in Galantar, and I'm sure both runners will be picking it up. Or, well, SageLord will be picking it up whenever he gets there. Shouldn't have any problems getting through this section of Galantar. This is eLmaGus's race to lose at this stage, I feel.
Absolutely, he would need either a death at the gauntlet or hugging Ganon a few too many times.
Yeah, I think he's maybe 4 Ganon falls ahead, I'd say. Maybe 3.
This is silverless Ganons, anything can happen, but our players should be well prepared for it.
Yeah, at this stage of the tournament, these players are well practiced, best of the best at this stage. So I don't think we will be seeing any major issues with Buttersword Silverless Ganon. eLmaGus is making short work of this climb.
Very clear tell that he has done this a lot of times before.
Yeah, he's done it once or twice.
That's
Heading
not
off.
fair.
Heading off to his Lamwallace 2 fight.
That was a really nice fight, weaving in the fire rod and the sword slashes.
It's a hybrid Lamwallace skill. Got the perfect 1 cycle. And nice fun in King of Samaria rooms. Lots of little whiz rubes all lined up for our murdering. And SageLord making short work of the ice armors. He'll be picking up his big key shortly.
Did you see how fast eLmaGus lit that first torch?
I was watching ice armors actually. Was it very fast?
It looked... I mean, he didn't even stand next to it, in my eyes.
eLmaGus knowing all of the little tricks. Saving every frame he can.
And I think at this point his lead has only grown. No powder here for a full refill. That is the only weakness they will have at this point. eLmaGus with 12 hearts. And no potions, no fairies. This is all he's got.
Still everything he needs to beat Ganon at this stage. Making quick work of Muldorm. The SageLord's making his way up the gauntlet now.
And the powder, just one chest too late.
SageLord making great work of that first room in the gauntlet. See eLmaGus going over to Aghanim 2, getting a nice double in the first round.
Saga patterns aren't being all that nice, also getting blue ball there.
I still got one hit. And the double.
That was a very impressive double he got there.
And 2-1-2-1. It's pretty solid.
The fourth cycle always feels good, especially when you get 2 blue balls.
See SageLord moving on to his Lummolas 2 fight. eLmaGus heading off to the pyramid for the final showdown with the big pig man.
And the most important thing here for eLmaGus is to get that torch glitch.
Yeah, definitely. So he has exactly 1 half magic bar to deal with this Ganon fight. He has no safeties at all, no potions, no nothing. He has a B, but I don't think that's particularly safe.
It's a pretty nice position here on Ganon, so going to go very fast into phase 3.
You see him counting his slashes perfectly. You saw that slight freeze in his part, waiting on the trident to start spinning to signify the start of phase 2. Using the hook shot to avoid the damage from the firebats. See him moving on to phase 4 rather soon.
And we will finally find out where those silver arrows are. They are in Swamp.
And a lot of locates. Well, that might put a little bit of worry in eLmaGus's mind if it was in one of the easy chests that he skipped. But I don't think he's almost certainly just focused on this Ganon fight.
Very impressive getting that hit there in the top right corner. And that actually gives him a triple, and it's really hard to get a triple on Silverless Ganon.
eLmaGus making short work of this Ganon fight.
He's done this a lot of times before. SageLord is done with Moldorm. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. eLmaGus is going to take home the seed. And with that, his 4th victory in this tournament. Good game, well played.
Yeah, GG. That was a fantastic Ganon fight to close off a extremely well executed seed.
He's going to finish with an official Speed Racing TV time of 1 hour, 33 minutes, 1 second.
See, SageLord on Aghanim 2 now. He's going to get on to his Ganon fight very, very shortly. He's having a few more issues with the Aghanim patterns here. But there we go. See SageLord moving on to his Ganon fight. I believe he has 1 blue potion in the bag still.
I also do believe he does have 1 blue potion.
Getting his cape all warmed up for this Ganon fight. He's gonna make short work of it.
And we are now joined by our winner of this match, eLmaGus. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
So how did you feel about that seed?
That was a really rough seed. Not in the sense that, I mean, the seed was relatively generous, but there was a lot of things that you could route differently. So it's a very open seed in that sense, and if I would have made one or two different decisions, this match would have probably went a bit differently. So I'm quite happy with how it turned out in the end, but that was a very scary seed.
You did have Dark World access immediately upon entering Kakariko. How did that influence your routing?
That's always scary too, because, yeah, I mean, if everything is open to you and you're not even done finishing Kakariko, you know, oh god, there's something weird's going to happen here. But as far as that influences my routing, since I did find the boots, normally I would have just, keep checking a couple of things. Since I found the boots though, I was like, well, I can, take a look in Dark World right now. It's a bit convenient, see what I find. And I found a lot of things back to back then, so that was pretty good. But, yeah. Normally I would just, do the usual stuff like Dam and all that, Mini Moldorum. But with the boots in tow, thought to myself, well, can go ahead and try get some Dark World done.
And the main difference between you guys routing was actually SageLord dipped into Skull Woods immediately and had his hammer for a long time.
Yeah.
It didn't end up not causing a huge number of issues because he ended up doing a lot of the wrong choices as such that you did as well. So you ended up entering Ganon's Tower very close together.
Yeah. Yeah, I was afraid of that when I found the hammer. The thing is, I sequence broke this mountain, and I knew, okay, I need the flute to get up here, so the flute needs to be somewhere down below. And the whole time I was thinking, okay, the flute might be in Skull. And then I pull out the hammer there, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, we have Ice Palace still left with the hammer. That's great! Hooray! That was so good. Ay. So with this flute in mind, I was like, it's not gonna hurt me too much if it's in Skull. But when the hammer was there, I was like, oh god, really?
And we also now have SageLord finishing off the seed with an official speed racing time of 1 hour, 36 minutes, 43 seconds. We'll also see if we can get him in here for an interview. And this early escape for you, you had very few rupees, very few bombs, you didn't get to check the back. How did you feel exiting the escape?
Not too bad. Like, especially finding the glove very early after that, I was like, alright, that's fine. I'm not too scared going. I've played a lot of open as well, where, you don't even do escape, so I was pretty confident that something would turn up, so I wasn't too worried about that, honestly.
And we are now also joined by SageLord. Good game. How do you feel right now?
Good game. I feel pretty. That was a pretty fun seed. A really interesting seed, I thought. At least the way that I mean, I'm sure there's lots of that felt really open. So, felt like it's possible me and eLmaGus took very different routes. GG, by the way.
GG, dude. I was scared the whole time because of what you just said, man.
Yeah,
that was a very scary seed.
Yeah, I actually think I made a huge mistake. When I was on Death Mountain, I saw the lamp. I sequence broke into Death Mountain, saw the lamp, and because of that, I knew. And I ended up after clearing all of Death Mountain. If Misery Mire Medallion was not Ether, I was going to be in go mode if I found the flute. And so, I don't know if you were in the same situation.
Yep. Same boat.
So
essentially.
Yeah, I felt really. Well, I needed bombos too, actually. So I came off of Death Mountain expecting to dip Eastern Palace, Pod, Pyramid, Catfish, and not do the Dark Rooms, because the Dark Rooms wouldn't be accessible by logic. And then I forgot that I picked up bombos from Hobo on my way to Eastern Palace, which actually unlocked Ice Palace, where Fluke could be too. So if I would have, instead of dipping Eastern, Pod, Pyramid, Catfish, and then went straight to Ice Palace, I might have been in a much better position. So I feel a little bit bad about that, but that's okay.
Yeah, don't worry. I made a similar mistake-ish. I had the whole time the same thought. I knew that the flute had to be down off of the mountain somewhere, and the whole time I skipped Skull Woods, thinking that if the flute is there, that's not a big deal. It turns out the hammer was there though, and that
Oh.
I pretty much did everything except for Skull at the very end. So I found the hammer really, really late.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
I was scared deathless after after I found that thing. I was like, no, because then only Ice Palace really was left over because the rest was all done at that point.
Very
But,
interesting.
It was a very interesting moment through the race that both of you actually checked the Mara area in a very similar time frame. eLmaGus checked it. He did Desert already and checked it a bit after SageLord. Who both of you were in checkerboard at exactly the same time, and were thinking a lot about where you were going to go for looking for Aether. And you both ended up doing Turtle Rock at exactly the same time, and then Mara and Swamp at the same time. It was very, very close at the end of the race. It's fantastic to watch.
Awesome. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Before the race, I sort of decided that I was going to have to do some gambling. So I actually thought that eLmaGus would probably go to Swamp, because in my mind, I think Swamp might be the better play, but just because if you're looking for one item, you could potentially find it. But yeah, then again, if you don't find it, then you have to go left side, and it becomes a whole thing. So.
Exactly. Swamp is a better play statistically, I think. You're absolutely right about that. But the same, what you just said crossed my mind. It's like, what if I can go mode Swamp after finding what I
Right.
need in Turtle Rock,
Turtle Rock is like basically the same go mode and not go mode, so it's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lose a bit of time to climbing the mountain again. And another reason that was Swamp was your second 5-6 as well, so it was an 8-item dungeon, and I was very curious to see both of you ended up doing Turtle Rock instead of the slightly statistically better Swamp Palace play.
Yeah, I thought after my Eastern and pod dip mishap, I thought that I was going to be behind, so I thought that I needed to make a gamble. That turned out that eLmaGus did the same thing, so it wouldn't matter.
You were both floating up the Death Mountain at the same time. It was a glory to watch the end of the sea.
Nice.
Nice. At least you knew that you had the hammer already. So I did all the dark rooms as well because I didn't have the hammer yet.
Yeah.
Oh man. I know that I should just go into Skull, honestly. I mean, it went so well at the start. Like, I found, like, every other item that we needed, except for Ether, Hammer, and Flute within, like, 30 minutes, maybe? 25?
Mhm,
So, from there, it was just like, well, great.
It was a great seed to watch. Like, both you guys played fantastically. It definitely came down to a few different choices here and there, but you pretty much checked all of the same locations by the end of it. It came down to a lot of it came down to Galen's Tower as well. And I guess you made short work of that tower. That was a wonderful climb to watch.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was pretty convinced if we were going to both enter Ganon's Tower around the same time, I was probably going to lose, so... My execution's not quite as good as eLmaGus's. I'm really happy I picked up potions. I would have died on the Turok boss and Ice Palace boss if I didn't have those 2 blue potions, so I'm really happy that I did that.
Yeah, they definitely saved your bacon in there. You guys, any closing thoughts about the race?
Thanks for restreaming and commentating. Much appreciated. I'm glad that it was a very enjoyable seed. GG to Sage. I'm sure you'll go to the brackets the way you played, dude. Maybe we can see each other again. Would be nice. That was definitely... I was definitely scared.
Yeah, GG. Thanks to all... Yeah, like eLmaGus said, thanks to all the restreamers, commentators, trackers. You guys are awesome. All the volunteers are amazing.
Yeah, we're happy to be here. You guys at the start of the show. That was a great race to watch.
Without any races, we wouldn't be here doing this. And of course, we do have more races. We currently have Dark Dylan versus Sane Raf 11. I most likely butcher that over on Speed Gaming 3. And just in 10 minutes, we will have Michael K versus Brewers Fan JP on Speed Gaming 2. And then we just continue with more and more matches across the day.
Yeah, the random tournament is only warming up now. It's about halfway through week 4. Still a lot of weeks to go, a lot of matches to play.
And one final thank you to both our runners today, eLmaGus and SageLord. I'd also like to thank our tracker, Level Up Inc., for helping out behind the scenes. And be sure to follow all of our Twitch channels at Speed Gaming and ALTTP Randomizer 1 through 6. And I've been Marjevich,
I've been Eliana.
and we hope to see you all in the not too distant future.
See you all next week.